Hello everybody, today I want to make a video that some of you might find interesting if you like pulse machines, and some of you might not find interesting. And I was going to do this video at the beach, but it's so darn hot outside. I decided I'd do it here at home and make this video. Now I have two metal detectors here and they look identical. Let me lower it there. They look identical, but they're not exactly identical. And I'm going to talk about these metal detectors today. These are the Pulse PI Surfmaster by White's. Now, first of all, White's is an amazing company, the best customer service out there, without a doubt. I've had several situations and amazing stories about things that White's done that I've never seen before. It's just really, truly amazing. And I'll get into that another time, but here I am. I have these two metal detectors, and I'm going to talk about both of them. Now, these are pulse metal detectors. These are PI machines, and PI stands for pulse introduction metal detecting. And pulse introduction metal detecting is interesting because with a pulse machine, they go pretty deep, and they're not really affected by things like black sand and mineralized ground the way the other machines are, the discriminating machines are. So that's a positive for the pulse. Now, a common negative for the pulse is they don't discriminate, as so people think, but we're going to hear about that today. They don't discriminate, but they ring up everything. So if you're in a really trashy area, you're going to have a really tough time with a pulse machine because you're going to be picking up everything. And depending on the time you have, how many people have the time to dig up like bobby pins and paper clips that are 6 to 10 inches down over and over again. But you might get that ring that's 6 to 12 to 13 to 14 inches down that you might miss with a discriminating machine. So the pulse machine is great in certain situations. Now, the beach that I go to most of the time, very clean in the water. There's not that much. I mean, I might get some barbie pins, but for the most part, everything I'm digging is either a coin or a target. Now, I do get bottle caps, but I got to be honest, with my discriminating machines, I get bottle caps also. Maybe certain bottle caps that'll pass up on a discriminating machine, but I'm still picking them up. And I might know the tone on a discriminating machine if it's a bottle cap, but I still have a tough time walking away from it. So I do pick up more things with the pulse introduction machine that are junk, but everything I pick up is deeper than I pick up with the discriminating machines, even in the pinpoint only, the all metal mode on the discriminating machines. I still go deeper with these. Now, I haven't used other pulse machines, so I can't comment on them. But on this one here, the latest version of the ones I'm holding is the White's dual field Surfmaster PI machine. Now, I do not have that one for a reason. The coil on that is extremely large. And some people believe it's a larger coil, it'll go deeper. That's not necessarily always the truth. But the dual field will go a little deeper because it's dual field. And when you understand the dual field technology, you'll understand a little bit why that might go a little bit deeper. And that would be nice to have something like that. But the coil is so darn big that I don't like the way it swings in the water. And it's slight buoyancy, not too much, but more than these that I have here, and more than the average metal detector. You might cover more ground because the coil is bigger, but still, the coils are not. You can't change the coils on these, and it's just a little too thick for me. So when you go through the water, it makes it a little bit harder to swing, and it's heavy on top of that. But I know people that do great with that, and again, it's a White's machine, so you're not going to go wrong with that. Now, these two machines are the earlier versions of the White's Surfmaster dual field machine, and I'm going to talk about them today. So the first one I got, I'm going to put this one down for a second, and then I'm going to talk about it. So let me put that down 1 second. And so if I did this on the beach, I would be extremely hot right now. But I'm so glad to be here in my AC so I can make this video for you. Okay, the first one is the Surfmaster PI. And this was the first edition of the, or maybe the second, but I believe it was the first edition of the White's Surfmaster. I picked this up on Craigslist, and I had already had a discriminating machine. I had a Minelab Excalibur, But I picked up the Surfmaster. I actually got it for $375, and I called one of the White's dealers that fixes these machines, or at least tests the machines, and I gave them the serial number, and they said it was just in for a checkup, a tune-up, and everything worked out fine. So I have another video about Craigslist and buying metal detectors, the chance you take on Craigslist. But this one turned out great for me. So right when I started using it, the first day I used it, I didn't hear any signals, and I was very disappointed until I read the manual, and then I started to learn a little bit more about pulse introduction machines. And basically, a couple of things about this. And when you got a machine like this, as long as there's no cracks in here, as long as the seal is good, you're not going to leak, you're going to be okay. But here, what I really wanted to talk about on this machine, there's 2 dials here on the bottom. Let's turn this here so you can see. Remove the headphones. Okay, there's 2 dials there. You see that? Move the headphones out of the way. There you go. 2 dials. And when we look at that, one is a turner and one's a pulse delay. And they have their settings. They have the factory settings, a little knob for the factory settings. And so the turner really turns it on and off, and basically you want to use this. It's like a threshold where just until you hear that sound, slightly, maybe a little bit less. You don't want to, if it's loud, you don't want to leave it there, and if it's lower, you don't want to leave it completely silent. But right when you hear just a little bit of sound, that's where you leave that, and that's fine. Now the pulse delay, that's what's so interesting about this older version of the Surfmaster PI. The pulse delay, if you know about pulse introduction, I've seen some questions on the message boards about what's better, delayed pulse or higher pulse. Well, as it was explained to me, pulse delay, you want it at its lowest setting, so the pulse is at its fastest. And when it's at its fastest, it's picking up all it needs to do at the deepest range. But if you lower the pulse delay, you start discriminating out certain metals. As the pulse gets slower, you could start discriminating out certain metals. Now that might sound good, you're discriminating out metals, so now this pulse delay can be a discriminating machine. But it's not good, because the issue is you can be discriminating out certain rings and certain valuable metals. So that's why you want to leave the pulse delay on its fastest setting, which would be just turning it right on. And this is why when I first used it, I wasn't picking up any signals, because I turned it higher. But now you turn it right on there where the setting is, and that's fine. Well, I've been using this machine and absolutely love it so much that I use this now as my primary machine. And depending on the beach, if I want a real trashy beach, I might use my Minelab Excalibur discriminating machine. But for the most part, for me and my beach, this works great in the water. Now on the dry land, it's a whole other story, because there's just way too much junk on the dry sand. In the wet sand, I still use this if it's sanded in. And if it's a lot of junk, I might switch to the discriminating machine. But for the most part, I use this. Now the earphones on this are fine. I've had a White's Beach Hunter ID similar earphones. They're nice and tight. They keep out sound, and they're not known to have issues. And one of the reasons why is because it's under the control box. So unlike some of the other machines, including the Excalibur, when this falls, yes, even though it's falling and it might be pulling here, it's not pulling it from the top. And it does help. And I don't know the difference of their connection versus some other machines, but a lot of machines have problem with the headphones right here. I haven't experienced any of those problems with this machine. I've had it for quite a while, and I haven't read many people experience problem with these. So that's one of the major things here. Now this runs on batteries, but I do have a charger. I got a battery recharger pack from one of those battery companies for this. I haven't used that yet, because this battery's been here for over 25 hours now, so they last a really long time, and it's still going strong. And it's a battery check on the machine. If you just turn these knobs a certain way, it'll tell you, give you a battery check. And as you can see, I'm using the standard stock S shaft. Now they do make the longest shaft for these. The Excalibur and many other machines are not balanced well, and you need the long straight shaft. But I find this balance just great, so I haven't gotten the straight shaft yet. I might just get it for experimental purposes, but I'm doing fine with this shaft and this machine. But here's the real reason I wanted to get this and why I really enjoy it. It is the coil. The coil, this says Pulse Diver 950, zero buoyancy, and it is zero buoyancy, but it's so skinny. I mean, I have a coil cover on here, which I'm not going to take off because I haven't cleaned it, and there's probably a lot of sand that's going to fall over my floor. But it is so thin, and it's even thinner without the coil cover, that it goes and cuts through the water so easily. And it just does a great job at that. That's the major difference between the new dual field with the 300 larger coil that's thicker and this coil right here. Another fact is the coil cover, I get this on and off real easy. That other coil cover on the 300, the bigger thing, that's not easy at all. So one thing I have here, I don't necessarily need it, but I got it because it was available. And I just swing this around here. And that's just a coil stabilizer, loop stabilizer. Very inexpensive piece, and it helps it so the coil doesn't swing back and forth. But that's basically it. That's why I got this, I just love the coil on this. So there it is. Now, recently, I was so impressed with this, I wanted to get a backup. I don't need a backup because this works great, and if it doesn't, they got great customer service. They turn it around right away. But I was looking for them because they don't sell these often. I actually saw a man at the beach that's been doing this for 20 years. And he says of all the detectors he's used, he's found this one to be the best, the PI Surfmaster, the older ones. So when he told me that, I said, I got to get another one because you can't just find them. They're not selling them like they're selling other detectors out there now. So I ended up getting another one on eBay. And this one's a Surfmaster PI. But when I got it, I saw it's actually a Surfmaster PI Pro. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And I should have saw it in the description, but I wasn't thinking. And this is yellow, but this one is purple, if you see the difference here. But other than that, what are the differences? Well, same headphones, same stock shaft, just a different color. Same coil cover. And so not too much differences until I turned this on and I noticed the difference. And I had to do some research to find out what the reason was. This one has the turner, which you can use like a threshold. You just want to leave it just until you can hear the buzz. But it doesn't have a pulse delay. It has a gain control. And that's the difference between this one and the other machine. It has a gain control. And I called up White's and I said, well, what is the reason? Why is that like that? And he said, well, so many people that were getting the original machine would actually try to turn up the pulse delay to discriminate things, that they were losing targets, and they didn't believe the machine is as good as it was. They didn't understand to leave it on the factory setting for the best way to use the machine. So they got rid of the pulse delay, and they got rid of the pulse delay control, and they automatically make the machine stay at the quickest pulse delay, which is the lowest setting. That's automatic. But what they did add is they added the gain control. And the gain control on here is like a sensitivity control almost. So depending on the beach and the situation and the waves in the ocean, you got the gain control, which will act as a sensitivity, and you could actually get a little bit deeper with this one than you could the previous one, because the previous one didn't have the gain control. The previous one had the turner and the pulse delay. So now they added the gain control. So they tried to improve the machine by getting rid of the pulse delay control option and adding the gain control, and that is the difference. Well, when it was explained to me, I went to the White's. I went to the beach, and on the beach I started using that, and I did find it to be a little bit deeper. And I was very impressed with that. So that's great. Now I understand on the new dual field, they have the pulse delay, the gain control, and the turner, all three of those. So maybe if you do have one of those and you weren't sure, you'll have a better understanding of what those three knobs might mean right now. But that's what they have on a newer one from my understanding. Now this one has the same coil, this version, as the other one. And again, it has the orange seal which is a brand new seal. Actually, when I brought it in to get it tested to make sure there were no leaks. I got a new seal. So another tip that they gave me was, if you're not going to be using this for like 3-4 weeks, you want to take out the batteries. So that's one of the tips they said, because the batteries can tend to leak. It is a waterproof machine, but still, that's one of their recommendations. Some people actually told me you want to open up the control box and leave it open whenever you're not using it, so it doesn't put pressure on the seal. But I checked with some other people, and they say, yeah, some people believe that and some people don't. But for now, I have them closed. I'm actually going to go to the beach tomorrow morning and work with these, and maybe hopefully find some stuff, some good stuff. But that's it right there. Now, again, if you want to use these pulse delays on a dry sand, I know a guy that does it, and he finds stuff that other people miss, but he's also picking up a lot of junk. So I think it depends on your time and your beach. But I just wanted to explain the difference between the earlier models of the Surfmaster PI Pro, and I'm probably, I'm doing a good thing so people can buy them. But if there's a good deal on one, I might miss out on one because I'm telling you to get them. But really, I haven't used the other pulse induction machines. I hear the Sand Shark is wonderful. I hear they're all great. And from my experience, though, as for now, I guess I'm a pulse guy because I'm really enjoying these. And I'm just, the beach I go to most of the time, it's not that dirty. The other day I did go to another beach, and I had this machine, and the first 3 or 4 things I picked up were big chunks of iron. And I didn't know they were iron, but with my Excalibur discriminating machine, I would have known, and I would have saved myself some time. So after picking up a couple more pieces, I decided to get that one. And for that beach, that machine was better, my discriminating machine. If you have any comments or questions or any tips about these Pulse PI induction machines, please let me know. Even though they're not heavy, the control box does come off and you can hip mount it, or I see one guy that wears it on his shoulder, and he just doesn't like to dunk the machine even though it's waterproof. So he does that. He says it's uncomfortable, but again, he doesn't like to put it under. Some people have the straight shaft for these. Again, I find they balance great, and they're not heavy at all. I just love them. So put your comments and questions below. Thanks for checking out the video. And guys, you know, I'm new at this hobby. I haven't been doing this as long as some of you out there watching this video. But I've really been researching and getting out there and finding stuff and just really seeing what works and what doesn't work. And I believe the information I'm sharing with you will be helpful to some of you, especially people that are newer than I am, and it'll save you a lot of time in deciding what might be the best machine for the water. I can tell you these Pulse machines, especially the used ones, are a lot cheaper than many of the discriminating machines that you find online new, even used. So I hope this information helps. If you have any comments or questions, post them below. Until then, have a great day and keep swinging.